right, so you ready for this? We're going deep, like really deep, into the mind of Steven Bartlett.
Oh, I'm ready. Let's do it.
So we've got his book, The Diary of a CEO, obviously.
Oh,
But we didn't stop there. Oh, no.
Yeah.
We went and got all the juicy extras. Articles, studies, you name it.
The stuff he mentions that really piqued our interest.
Yeah. It's like we cracked open his brain and put it all right here for you.
A feast. A brain feast.
And who better to help us digest all this than our expert here, right?
Well, I mean, the thing about Bartlett is he's not all talk.
Right.
He's actually done it all, built a billion-dollar business.
Advises huge company. The guy's the real deal.
Exactly.
And what I love is he doesn't just tell his own story in this book.
Yeah, who would know?
He lays out these 33 laws he's observed.
Like from his own experience, yeah, but also from hundreds of interviews.
It's like a cheat sheet, like how to win at life and in business.
Sign me up.
And we're going to break it all down.
Every single bit of it.
Okay, so one law that just grabbed me right away. It's about being a little bit absurd.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. This is a good one.
Like Bartlett says, useless absurdity will define you more than useful practicalities.
Oh, I love that.
He even talks about how his own company, they installed this giant blue slide in their office. Just for fun.
Yeah.
Like, who does that?
Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? Think about it.
Okay, yeah.
How much stuff do we see every single day? Ads, posts.
It's information overload.
Our brains are basically trained to just tune it all out. Unless, of course, it's something totally unexpected.
Okay, so a giant blue slide.
Exactly. Something absurd. You can't help but notice it.
So you're saying it's a strategy.
Yeah.
Like, be absurd, get attention.
It's attention hacking. You break the pattern, make people stop and think, a slide in the office.
You think I could get my boss to go for that?
Maybe, maybe not. The point is, though, if you want to stand out,
Yeah.
you got to give people something they don't expect.
I like it. Okay, now, get ready for this.
Oh, boy.
We're going to talk about beliefs.
All right.
Law number 4. Beliefs change when a person gets new counteracting evidence. Bartlett uses this crazy thought experiment.
Yeah, it's a bit intense.
So imagine a terrorist, right? Got your loved one hostage. And they say, you have to believe something totally ridiculous or they die.
Oh, wow.
Could you just decide to believe it? Just like that.
I mean, it makes you think, doesn't it?
Right. We think we choose our belief.
Boy, it's way more complicated than that.
So what does Bartlett say about how they actually change then?
Well, he brings up all this research, right? And it shows that beliefs are tied to evidence.
Evidence. Okay.
You need some kind of proof, even if it's, completely wrong.
Like conspiracy theories.
Exactly. People cling to them, right? Because they've found their own evidence. Never mind if it makes sense to anyone else.
It's like flat earthers.
Yeah. They're not just being stubborn. They've got this whole system of proof.
Even though, come on.
But here's what we can take away from this. If you want to change a belief, one that's holding you back, don't just say affirmations.
I'm good enough. I'm smart enough.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
That's not enough. You need to go get new experiences that prove the old belief is wrong.
So if you think you're bad at public speaking,
don't just tell yourself you're good.
go give a speech.
Even if it's just to your cat.
That's better than affirmations.
It's way more powerful. You're actually retraining your brain with real world stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. And this whole idea of new experiences,
Yeah.
it ties into another law Bartlett talks about. You must lean in to bizarre behavior. He brings up that music store CEO, remember?
Oh, yeah, the guy who thought digital music was a fad.
And his business went belly up because of it.
Ouch. Expensive lesson.
What makes people so resistant to change, though, even when it's staring them right in the face?
Well, it's psychology.
Here we go.
It's called cognitive dissonance. We hate it when our beliefs and our actions don't line up.
We want to be consistent.
So when something new comes along that challenges us, our worldview.
We dig in our heels.
Makes sense, though. It's way more comfortable to stick with what we know, even if it's totally outdated.
We all do that, right? Like holding onto that old phone that barely works because we're just so used to it.
Exactly. Same principle. But here's the problem.
Uh-oh.
The world is changing. Like faster than ever. Technology, everything.
So if you're always leaning OUT of the new stuff,
You're going to get left behind, miss out on all the good stuff.
it's like swimming upstream. You just get exhausted and don't really get anywhere.
Bartlett's saying, be the lean-ein person. Be open, even if it feels a little weird at first.
That's where the good stuff is, right?
The aha moments, the breakthroughs, you got to be ready for them.
Okay, so we've talked about being open to new, weird, bizarre things. But Bartlett also says it's important to, like, stay true to yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Law number 7, never compromise your self-story. This one, like, really got to me.
Yeah, it's powerful.
He talks about this boxer, Chris Eubank Jr., went through this brutal sparring session.
Yeah, I remember this. Intense?
And it forced him to basically rewrite his own story.
Like who he was.
What he could handle.
What's so interesting about that story, though, is that it connects our self-concept with resilience.
Like our ability to bounce back.
Exactly. People with strong self-stories, positive ones, they're usually more optimistic, more persistent.
And they just deal with stress better.
Right. It's like they've got this belief that they can handle anything. They're not afraid to fall down because they know they'll get back up.
But on the other hand, negative beliefs can become like self-fulfilling prophecies.
Oh, absolutely. Bartlett mentions a study where women were told flat out that women are bad at math.
Oh, no.
And then they took a math test, and guess what? They did worse.
No way. Just from hearing that.
It's wild, right? It's like the stereotype itself became this mental block.
So how often does that kind of stuff actually happen,
Yeah.
in real life?
Oh, all the time. Think about it. Stereotypes about race, gender, age.
They can really mess with your head.
Totally. They creep into our self-stories, and then they limit our potential.
It reminds me of growing up. I was always told black people can't swim.
Oh, wow.
And so guess what? My first swimming lessons were a total disaster. I was so convinced I couldn't do it,
You psyched yourself out.
It took me years to unlearn that, to realize it was total BS.
And that's the thing, right? These beliefs impact our actions, our abilities even.
But there's hope, right?
Always. Another study showed that women who used aliases on a test, basically they detached from their real identities and the stereotypes that came with them. They actually did better than those who used their real names.
So it's like by using a fake name, they created this distance from the negative stereotype.
Exactly. And it freed them to perform better.
That's so cool. It really shows how powerful our self-stories are.
We're always shaping them, right? Every experience adds a new chapter. But the key is being aware of the stories we're telling ourselves.
And actively going out and getting new experiences that challenge the bad ones.
Exactly. Experiences that prove those limiting beliefs wrong. You gotta write a better story for yourself.
So we're not just like passive characters in our own stories. We get to choose what happens next.
We're holding the pen.
I like that. And speaking of making an impact, Bartlett talks a lot about the importance of capturing attention from the very beginning. Law 18. Fight for the first 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, he's got this great story about being expelled from school, right? And then having to face his mom's anger when he decided to follow his entrepreneurial dreams.
I bet that taught him a thing or two about making an impression.
Seriously, he emphasizes that our attention spans are just shrinking, right? Because of, everything. All the information we're bombarded with all the time.
So you've only got a few seconds to really hook someone before they're on to the next thing.
Literally seconds.
He even uses this scenario of like a stressed out customer named Jenny.
If you can grab her attention on a bad day, you can grab anyone's attention.
Love it. So what's the takeaway here? It's not just about being a good storyteller.
Right. No matter what you're communicating, presentation, email, a casual conversation even, those first 5 seconds, that's what matters. You got to make them count.
Okay, I'm sold. 5 seconds. Got it. Now this next one, I'm intrigued, but I'm also a little skeptical. Bartlett calls it, you must make pressure your privilege.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
Pressure, a privilege. Most people are running the other way. How does he make that work?
He totally flips the script on how we usually think about pressure. Like, usually it's negative, something to avoid, but Bartlett's saying, no.
It's a good thing?
It's a sign you're on the right track, that you're stretching yourself, doing something meaningful.
Okay, I could see that. Like, if you're not feeling any pressure at all, maybe you're not really challenging yourself.
Exactly. You know that saying, if you're not outside your comfort zone, you're not growing. It's kind of like that.
Okay, but how do you actually change your mindset about pressure?
Bartlett talks a lot about context. When we feel overwhelmed by pressure, it's usually because we've lost sight of the bigger picture.
You forget the why.
Yeah. It's like climbing a mountain, right? It's going to be tough, but if you keep your eyes on the view from the top, the summit, you'll push through it.
Because it's worth it.
Exactly.
So pressure is good. But what about this next law? Don't be an ostrich.
Oh, this is classic Bartlett.
Yeah, I get it. Burying your head in the sand doesn't make problems go away.
But we've all done it.
Oh, for sure. Avoid that tough conversation. Ignore that weird noise coming from the car. Easier to pretend it's not happening.
It's human nature. Discomfort, no thank you. But as Bartlett points out, this ostrich effect, it can have some pretty serious consequences.
It makes me think of the Titanic.
Ooh, good example.
So many people just refused to believe it was sinking. Even as the evidence mounted, they clung to that denial, and a lot of them, well,
Didn't make it. Ignoring reality doesn't change reality.
in fact, it usually makes things worse.
Right. It's better to confront the problem head on so you can actually fix it before a little problem turns into a big disaster.
So, no more ostriches? Check. But how do we actually break free from that mindset? What does Bartlett say?
He gives a 3-step process. First, pause. Acknowledge that something's wrong.
No more sweeping it under the rug.
Second, review yourself. How you're feeling, acting, reacting. Figure out where the problem really is.
Okay. And lastly,
Speak your truth. Share what you found, but without blaming anyone. Just take responsibility for your part.
that's good advice for anyone, not just business people.
Right. Be open about problems, even when it's uncomfortable.
Okay, speaking of uncomfortable truths, let's talk about this next law. The power of negative manifestation.
Ooh, another good one.
Isn't manifestation all about focusing on positive stuff, attracting what you want? How does negative fit into that?
Well, Bartlett's not saying dwell on negativity or expect the worst. It's more about proactively identifying potential problems, like a pre-mortem for your ideas.
Oh, like imagining your project has already failed, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And then figure out why it failed, so you can avoid those pitfalls before they happen.
That's smart. He shares a story, right?
Yeah.
About how he almost made a big mistake expanding his podcast network too fast.
Yep. Got caught up in the excitement.
So how did he avoid disaster?
He gathered his team and asked one simple question. Why is this a bad idea?
And that changed everything.
It was like a floodgate. They started pointing out all the risks he'd missed. The economy was slowing down. Sponsorships might dry up.
So by looking for the negative, he uncovered vital information.
It's like, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
This is blowing my mind a little bit. So pressure's a privilege, ostriches are bad, and negative thinking can be good. What else you got, Bartlett?
All right, how about this? Law 26. Your skills are worthless, but your context is valuable.
Wait, did he just say skills are worthless? I don't think I like this one.
It sounds crazy, right? But he makes a good point.
Okay, I'm listening.
He's saying that skills themselves, they don't have value. It's the context where you use them that matters.
Okay, I need an example. My brain is starting to hurt.
Think about his own story, right? He moved from social media marketing to the biotech world.
Pretty different fields.
Totally. But the skills he'd learned in marketing, suddenly they were in high demand in biotech, like rare and valuable.
So same skills, different playing field.
It's like he leveled up just by changing the context. It reminds me of that experiment with the violinist Joshua Bell, played his Stradivarius in a subway station.
Oh, yeah. Nobody even noticed him, right?
Right. Amazing musician, but in that context, no one cared. Put him in a concert hall, though. Thousands of dollars per minute.
So it's not just about what you know, it's about where you know it. You got to find the right stage for your talents.
And that's true for everyone, no matter what you do. You've got to think strategically about where your skills are most valuable.
Okay, that's deep. I like it. All right, hit me with another one.
How about the discipline equation? Death, time, and discipline.
Whoa, that got dark fast. But also kind of motivational, like a reminder that our time is limited, right?
You got it. Bartlett's getting all philosophical here.
Okay, lay it on me.
He's saying that being aware of, death,
Whoa, heavy.
it can be a powerful motivator for discipline.
It's like when you realize you don't have forever to achieve your goals, you got to get moving.
Right. You don't want to waste a single minute. He even uses this analogy. Imagine a game, right, where you're given a certain number of chips, representing the hours you have left to live.
Oh, wow.
Every hour you have to spend one chip, and you can't get them back.
That's intense.
It makes you think about how you're spending your time, right? What you're betting those chips on.
Scrolling through social media all day suddenly feels a lot less appealing.
Right. But it's not just about being aware of,
Death.
it's also about discipline.
But he's not talking about the kind of discipline that feels like punishment, right? Just forcing yourself to do stuff you hate.
No way. True discipline, he says. It's about aligning your actions with your values.
Find joy in the process.
Make pursuing your goals as fun as achieving them.
I love that.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that?
Well, he breaks it down, right? 3 key things that influence our discipline.
Hit me.
First, how valuable is the goal to you? Second, how rewarding is the actual process? And third, how costly is it, psychologically speaking? Basically, the more you value the goal and the more you enjoy the journey, the more likely you are to stick with it.
It's like find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly. He even gives tips for boosting these things.
Okay, like what?
To make a goal seem more valuable, connect it to something that matters to you. Your family, your health, a cause you believe in, whatever.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. If you're working towards something you truly care about, it's easier to stay motivated.
And to make the process more fun, rewarding, he talks about gamification, like friendly competitions or tracking your progress visually.
That's clever. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, and I feel like we're just getting started.
I know, right? There's so much more to unpack.
Now I'm curious about teams. Bartlett has a whole section on building great teams, right? Law 28. Ask who, not how. Explain that one.
This one is all about focusing on the people in your business, not just the tasks.
People first.
He's basically saying every company is a recruitment company.
Okay, interesting.
Success hinges on getting the right people.
So it's not about getting bogged down in the how, like how do we do this?
And exactly. You first need to figure out the who. Who are the right people to make this happen?
And he says hire people who are smarter than you.
Yep. People who will challenge you, bring new ideas.
He even quotes Steve Jobs. It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. Wow, it's a good one. But what about when those smart people disagree? How do you manage that?
Well, that's where leadership comes in. And Bartlett has some, shall we say, strong opinions about that. But we'll have to save that for part 3.
All right, so we've got this amazing team, all these rock stars, but now I'm really curious about this leadership thing. You mentioned Bartlett has some strong opinions. So what's the secret sauce?
Buckle up, because this is where things get interesting. Law 29, create a cult mentality.
Wait, a cult? I don't know about that. Sounds a little extreme, maybe even dangerous.
Hold on. Before you start picturing robes and chanting, remember Bartlett's not talking about anything shady or unethical.
Okay, so what does he mean then?
He's using cult to describe a company culture, but one where there's this really strong sense of community, shared purpose, everyone's passionately bought into the vision.
So like everyone's on the same page, all rowing in the same direction.
Exactly. It's about creating that feeling that you're part of something bigger than yourself.
I can see that. Like when you're part of a team that's really clicking, everyone's working together, there's this energy, this excitement.
Right. And he breaks down how to actually create that cult mentality, a sense of community, a shared mission everyone believes in, an inspirational leader, and even a little bit of an us versus them attitude.
That last one makes me a bit nervous. Couldn't that create a toxic environment, like looking down on other companies or people who don't buy into the whole cult thing?
It's a valid concern, and Bartlett acknowledges that this kind of intense, all-in focus can be effective, especially in the early days of a company. But long-term,
Not so much.
yeah, it can lead to burnout, people get tired, it can stifle creativity, even create an echo chamber where nobody wants to speak up if they disagree.
So it's like a powerful tool, but you got to use it carefully. What does he suggest as a more balanced approach?
He talks about building a culture of trust, autonomy, psychological safety, where people feel supported, challenged, but empowered to do their best work.
Without fear of messing up or being judged. That sounds a lot healthier. Okay, so we've got a great team, a positive, sustainable culture. What's next?
Well, he says you have to protect that culture.
Makes sense. How do you do that?
He calls it the 3 bars for building great teams.
3 bars. All right, I'm listening.
The first one is the fire bar.
The fire.
Yeah, being willing to, let go of people who are toxic, who are hurting the team's culture.
That can be tough, firing someone.
It's never easy, but Bartlett's really clear about this. One bad apple can spoil the whole bunch.
To protect the rest of the team, you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly. But it's not enough to just get rid of the bad stuff, right? You also got to bring in the good.
Okay, I'm following you.
That's the higher bar, attracting those A players. The ones who share the company's values and will help everyone succeed.
Okay, makes sense. And the 3rd bar, train.
That's all about investing in your team. Give them the resources and support to develop their skills, learn new stuff, and reach their full potential. It's ongoing,
Yeah.
Always learning, always growing.
Remove the toxic, attract the best, and then help them grow even more. That's a winning formula right there. Okay, so now we've got this team. They're amazing. They're working well together. But achieving big goals can still feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. And that's where leverage the power of progress comes in.
Oh, I like this one. Celebrate the small wins along the way, Ra.
You got it. Bartlett says those small improvements over time, they add up to huge results.
It's like that story about the British cycling team, right?
Sir Dave Brailsford, the marginal gains guy.
Didn't he, obsess over every tiny detail? Like what kind of pillows the athletes were using?
He was all about it. Believed that even a 1% improvement in everything would make a big difference.
And it worked.
They dominated. Olympics, Tour de France, all of it. Proof that those little wins matter.
It's like that snowball effect. It keeps building and building. So instead of getting overwhelmed by the big goal, you just focus on the next little step.
And each win, no matter how small, it keeps you motivated. You start to believe that anything is possible. It's a strategy anyone can use, in any area of life.
I'm noticing a theme here with Bartlett. A lot of his advice is about shifting your perspective, right?
Totally.
Pressure's not bad. It's a privilege. Negativity can be a tool. Small wins are actually huge victories.
It makes you think differently.
Okay, so the grand finale, the last law. You said it might be a little controversial. What is it?
You must be an inconsistent leader.
Inconsistent. That doesn't sound like good advice. I thought consistency was important for good leadership.
I know, right? But he has a point. Bartlett's saying that the best leaders, they don't just stick to one style.
They adapt.
Exactly. They read the room, figure out what each person on their team needs to succeed.
So sometimes you're tough, sometimes you're supportive. It all depends on the situation.
He uses the example of Sir Alex Ferguson, the Manchester United coach.
Yeah, legendary.
He was known for being super adaptable.
Tough 1 minute, encouraging the next.
He knew how to connect with people, figure out what made them tick, and then adjust his approach.
It's like leadership is an art form.
And he understood that sometimes you need to shake things up a bit, create a sense of regency.
Challenge people to do better.
Like that time Manchester United was playing terribly.
First half, right. They were losing, and he just went off on them at halftime.
He was furious, yelled at one of his star players, Patrice Evra.
But it wasn't just to be mean.
Right. Evra realized later that Ferguson had picked on him specifically, knowing he could handle it, to send a message to the whole team. It worked. They came back and won the game.
That's incredible. So it's about understanding psychology.
And using every tool you've got to help people reach their full potential.
All right, so Bartlett's final law, the one that ties everything together. What is it?
Learning never ends.
I love it. And that's what we've been doing this whole time, right? Learning and growing together.
And this is just the beginning.
There's always more to learn, more to explore. So here's a final thought for everyone out there. If our beliefs are shaped by evidence and our self-stories influence our actions, what kind of evidence are you gathering right now? What story are you telling yourself and the world about who you are and what you're capable of? Keep learning, keep growing, and never stop becoming the best version of yourself.